Hello and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. PM Narendra Modi on Tuesday said that this is the right time, in fact, for businesses to come to India as the country works towards the goal of becoming Viksit Bharat by 2047. Now, this while providing a robust business-friendly environment and policy continuity. Addressing the 14th India-France CEO Forum in Paris, PM Modi said that the meeting is a confluence of the best minds from India and France. Meanwhile, Google CEO Sundar Pichai highlighted the incredible opportunities that AI will bring to India following his meeting with PM Modi on the sidelines, in fact, of the AI Action Summit in Paris. Meanwhile, the UK and US have not signed an international agreement on AI at the Global Summit. Now, the statement signed by dozens of countries, including France, China, and India, pledges an open, inclusive, and ethical approach to the technology's development. In a brief statement, the UK government said it had not, in fact, been able to add its name to it because of concerns about national security and global governance. Earlier, US Vice President J.D. Vance told delegates in Paris that too much regulation of AI could kill a transformative industry just as it's taking off. Listen in.
Loss of jobs is AI's most feared disruption. But history has shown that work does not disappear due to technology. Its nature changes and new types of jobs are created. Friends, India has successfully built a digital public infrastructure for over 1.4 billion people at a very low cost. And we have made digital commerce democratic and accessible to all. This vision is the foundation of India's national AI mission. We have one of the world's largest AI talent pools. India is building its own large language model considering our diversity.
After France, the PM will leave for the United States. He is on a key two-day US visit starting Wednesday and is expected to, in fact, propose tariff cuts and increased energy and defense imports during a meeting with US President Donald Trump. PM Modi keen to avert a potential trade war and boost trade ties after Trump threatened reciprocal tariffs on many countries.
We have with us NDTV's Nikuj Garg joining us all the way from Washington. Nikuj, Prime Minister Modi is the fourth world leader to beat the president in his second innings. How significant is that? And what does that really go on to say about the relationship between India and the United States?
Well, yes, that proposition certainly is reflective of the not only the strength that the Indo-US relationship carries, but also the fact that how consequential this relationship has become for the entire Capitol Hill. Remember, in the last 2 decades or so, there has not been a single administration on the Capitol Hill in the White House that has thought any lightly of the Indo-US relationship. Almost all the administrations, right from the time Prime Minister Vajpayee took those nano steps of transforming the landscape of Indo-US relationship, have been extremely serious about the nature of this relationship, about the consequence of this relationship. And look, who has President Trump been meeting since the time? It's not been not been a month since he has been inaugurated, and he has been meeting allies, old American allies like Jordan, like Egypt, like Israel, and all of them in under a contingency. So that's a contingency plan of the administration where there's a situation contingent upon the United States, contingent upon the president himself. But when it comes to India, there is no contingency here. It's just the sheer strength of the relationship and the personal bonhomie. Let's not overlook the fact of the personal rapport and the personal bonhomie between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi that brings the strength to this relationship, the additional strength. In fact, I was talking to a ranking diplomat yesterday in Washington, D.C., and he told me that he does not remember a single occasion, which means that panning back to somewhere around 90s, he does not remember a single occasion where the apex of the political Indian leadership has been invited. And look, all these meetings do not happen at the behest of someone. These happen at the invitation of the host country, particularly when that country happens to be the United States of America. So, in the 30 years or so that he could recall, that top-ranking diplomat on the DC, he says that he does not recall a single occasion when the apex of the Indian political leadership has been invited to Washington, D.C., to the White House so very quickly. So quite clearly, it reflects the strength of the relationship. It reflects the personal chemistry between the two leadership. It reflects the consequential nature of this relationship, Indo-US relationship between the two most consequential democracies in the world in the global arena. So the entire gamut of that relationship and its strength can certainly not be overlooked.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the Gaza ceasefire will end if Hamas does not return Israeli hostages by midday on Saturday. Now, this comes after Hamas said it would postpone Saturday's planned release, accusing Israel of, in fact, violating the terms of the ceasefire. Benjamin Netanyahu warned of a return to intense fighting and said that his cabinet were in unanimous agreement following a 4-hour meeting. He said, and I quote here, all expressed outrage at the shocking situation of our 3 hostages who were released last Saturday. Listen in.
ההחלטה שהעברתי בקבינט פה אחד היא זאת. אם חמאס לא יחזיר את חטופינו עד שבת בצהריים, הפסקת האש תיפסק וצה"ל יחזור ללחימה עצימה עד להכרעה סופית של החמאס.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is threatening to call off the ceasefire with Hamas. Netanyahu says he will resume the war in the Gaza Strip if Hamas does not follow through on a promised release of hostages this Saturday. His tough words come after Hamas announced it will not free the hostages. It accuses Israel of violating the ceasefire. It says Israel is obligated to allow more badly needed aid into the territory. Netanyahu's tough position comes after President Donald Trump called on Hamas to release all remaining hostages by Saturday. That's over 70 people. Now, this demand goes well beyond the contours of the current phase of the ceasefire, and it's unlikely that Hamas could meet this deadline. But the tough words appear to be emboldening the Israeli leader. Remember, Netanyahu was at the White House last week where he had a warm meeting with President Trump. Now, Saturday's a few days off. That gives time for international mediators to work behind-the-scenes diplomacy in hopes of restoring this ceasefire. But in the meantime, Netanyahu has ordered the Israeli military to beef up troops in and around Gaza. A resumption of the war would be disastrous for the people of Gaza, who are only beginning to recover from 15 months of heavy fighting. It also would spell trouble for the families of remaining Israeli hostages. They are calling on Netanyahu to stick with the ceasefire until all hostages come home. So Netanyahu in the coming days will face heavy pressure from multiple directions and have some very difficult decisions to make.
Jordan's King Abdullah II, in fact, told Donald Trump on Tuesday that his country would take in some 2,000 sick children from war-torn Gaza enclave. However, he pushed back against the U.S. president's plan, in fact, to take over the Palestinian territory and send its population into exile. However, he told Trump that Egypt was working on a plan for how countries in the region could, quote-unquote, work with Trump on the proposal. The Jordanian monarch also appeared to offer a sweetener to Trump, who had just the day before the visit floated the possibility of halting U.S. aid to Jordan if it did not, in fact, take refugees. Listen in.
We were just in the Oval Office with President Trump and the King of Jordan, and they were talking about the future of the Gaza Strip and the ceasefire deal with Israel and Hamas. President Trump says he does not think Hamas will comply with terms of the ceasefire deal and that all bets are off starting Saturday at noon. The pressure is on Hamas to release the remaining hostages in order to keep the ceasefire operational, and Israel has signaled is ready to restart hostilities if they don't get the hostages out.
Ukraine will offer to swap territory with Russia in any potential peace negotiations, President Volodymyr Zelensky has said in an interview on Tuesday. Now, he added that Europe alone would not be able to shoulder Kiev's war effort. According to reports, Zelensky will meet U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday at the Munich Security Conference as Washington pushes for an end to the nearly 3-year war with Russia. Now, Vance has been a frequent critic, in fact, of U.S. support that has been vital for Ukraine's war effort. Listen. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will travel to Ukraine this week, Donald Trump wrote in a social media post on Tuesday. Trump said that Bessent, in fact, will meet with Zelensky and suggested that the two leaders could discuss pathways to ending the conflict. U.S. President Donald Trump and ally and advisor Elon Musk spoke to reporters in the Oval Office Tuesday afternoon, defending slashing of federal government's programs and employees under Musk's DOGE program and insisting that they are, quote-unquote, maximally transparent in their efforts. In a rare question and answer session between Musk and reporters, Musk insisted he is not orchestrating a hostile takeover of the government, but in fact, instead, is giving the voters what they asked for to begin with. Asked if he is in effect policing himself as he has a number of government contracts, Musk maintained there has never been an organization that has been more transparent than the DOGE organization, and that the public can see for itself whether there are conflicts of interest. Now listen in to what Musk said.
There are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that's responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is not something that people want, and it does not match the will of the people. So it's just something we've got to fix.
Mark Fogel, an American teacher who was deemed wrongfully detained by Russia, has been released in what the White House described as a diplomatic thaw, in fact, that could advance negotiations to even end the war in Ukraine. Now, Steve Witkoff, a special envoy for President Donald Trump, left Russia with Fogel, a history teacher from Pennsylvania, and brought him to the White House straight up, where Trump greeted him. Fogel arrived at the White House as he stood next to Trump with an American flag draped around his shoulders. Fogel, who was expected to be reunited with his family by the end of the day, said he would forever be indebted to Trump. Trump said another American would be released on Wednesday, though he declined to name that person or say what country, only saying it was someone very special. Listen in.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now. And I want you to know that I am not a hero in this at all. And President Trump is a hero. These men that came from the diplomatic service are heroes. The senators and representatives that passed legislation in my honor to get me home are the heroes.
Bangladesh's Election Commission has said preparations are underway, in fact, to stage general elections by December this year. This as nationwide vandalisms over the past week prompted the interim Muhammad Yunus government to agree to the proposal. Now, everyone loves a breath of fresh air. Unfortunately, too often our air is anything but fresh. While air quality varies dramatically around the world, about 99% of the global population, in fact, is exposed to air at some point that doesn't meet the strict standards set by the World Health Organization or the WHO, the agency has reported. The UN Health Agency estimates that polluted air laden with noxious gases or tiny invisible particles that burrow into human bodies kills 7 million people prematurely every year. That's right, it kills 7 million people prematurely every year. And for the millions living in some of the world's smoggiest cities, many of them in Asia like New Delhi, Dhaka, Bangkok, and even Jakarta, bad air might seem unescapable. Listen in.
And now the science is so clear, and they have been able to establish through a lot of their cohort studies and epidemiological studies that the evidence is very loud and clear. That's why air pollution, we really have to deal with it at a very urgent scale.
It's time we slip into a short break. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the World Report on NDTV. According to reports, US President Donald Trump's trade advisors are finalizing plans on for the reciprocal tariffs the US president, in fact, has vowed to impose on every country that charges duties on US imports, ratcheting up fears of a widening global trade war. Trump stuns markets with his decision on Monday to impose tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports beginning the 12th of March. Now, the plan drew condemnation from Mexico, Canada, and the European Union, while Japan and Australia said they were seeking exemptions from the duties. Meanwhile, reports suggest that Germany's Commerzbank is preparing staff cuts and revamped financial targets in its efforts to, in fact, fend off tie-up advances by Italy's UniCredit. The measures would be more revolutionary or evolutionary than radical, while some conceded that a takeover of the German bank, which saw its stock price jump by 50% since UniCredit's first signaled interest, may be hard to stop. The battle for Commerzbank has become a test case of the country's ability to fend off foreign suitors and preventing its financial center from losing one of its few remaining big commercial banks. Japanese technology investor SoftBank Group has booked a net loss of 369.2 billion yen in the October-December quarter. Now this as valuations at his Vision Fund investments arm fell. The loss will further raise questions about SoftBank's plans for one of its most ambitious undertakings, a hefty investment in OpenAI. Now, according to reports, the company was in talks to invest up to $25 billion in the ChatGPT creator. Recent media reports have said that the figure has grown to $40 billion, though some of the amount would later be syndicated out to other investors. The chairman of Taiwan's Foxconn said on Wednesday that the company's aim is cooperation with Nissan, not acquisition, as the Japanese automaker's future hangs in the balance after stepping back from merger talks with Honda. Struggling Nissan is again at a crossroads after reports suggested that negotiations with bigger rival Honda to create the world's number 4 automaker had been complicated by growing differences. Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford premiered Captain America: Brave New World in Los Angeles on Tuesday. Mackie said his experience in theater helped prepare him for the film's titular role. Mackie ran into his friend and MCU co-star Don Cheadle on the red carpet. Captain America: Brave New World hits US theaters this Friday.
You know, the best thing about theater is it teaches you to listen. Like, you know, when you're acting, it's like a game of tennis. You volley to each other. You know, you can't drop the ball. So when you're on the stage, you really have to be in tune with the person that you're on stage with. And that was such a big help shooting this movie because there's so many different hands in the pot. There's so many different moving parts. You know, being on stage with Harrison Ford, you never want to drop the ball. So, you know, I feel like everybody kind of showed up and played their part and did their best to make the best movie we could.
Well, that's a wrap from me. Take care and have a wonderful day.